And when quitting isn't an option, the revolutionary power of resilience. Have you ever had that moment when life hands you a diagnosis that rewrites your entire story? That instant when everything you thought defined you suddenly doesn't. I recently had the profound privilege of interviewing Monika Hilton, a force of nature whose journey through scleroderma transformed not just her life, but the lives of countless others in her community. Monica isn't just surviving with this chronic autoimmune disease, she's thriving, advocating, and revolutionizing how we understand resilience, particularly for Black women who spent decades in survival mode. Her wisdom cuts through the noise of toxic positivity and offers something far more valuable: authentic hope. We often think of resilience as simply enduring, as that superhuman ability to weather storms. But what Monica taught me goes deeper. Resilience isn't just about surviving the hurricane, it's about having the audacity to dance in the rain, to rebuild differently, to find joy when the world expects you to crumble. When life forces you into fight or flight mode, Monica shared, whether through illness, loss, or unexpected change, you have the power to adjust, adapt, or reset your path. Quitting is never an option. Let that sink in for a moment. Quitting is never an option. But here's the beautiful paradox: while quitting isn't an option, transformation absolutely is. And sometimes transformation looks suspiciously like starting over. Consider Chef Lorraine Pascal. At the height of her modeling career, health issues, including debilitating joint pain, forced her to step away from the runway. Depression followed. Identity crisis ensued. Who are you when you can no longer do the thing that defined you? At 27, when many would say it was too late to start over, Lorraine enrolled in culinary school. The woman who once graced magazine covers found herself starting from scratch, learning to knead dough and perfect sauces. The journey wasn't linear. There were tears, doubts, moments of wondering if she'd made a catastrophic mistake. But that resilience, that refusal to quit, transformed her into the first Black British woman with her own BBC cooking show. Her best selling cookbooks now sit on shelves worldwide. Her voice on mental health awareness in the Black community has opened conversations previously shrouded in silence. What if she had quit? What if she had believed the lie that reinvention after 25 is impossible? This is the revolution we don't talk about enough: the courage to shed an identity that no longer serves you, even when that identity brought you success, recognition, and stability. For Black women, especially, who've been conditioned to be strong at all costs, to carry communities on our backs, to push through pain without complaint. This kind of transformation requires a special kind of bravery. It demands that we release the cape of the superwoman we've been taught to be. Monica's journey with scleroderma echoes this truth. When her career as a chef was derailed by this autoimmune disease, she didn't just lose a job, she lost a core piece of her identity. The kitchen had been her canvas, her sanctuary, her stage, and suddenly her body wouldn't cooperate with the demands of professional cooking. But quitting wasn't an option. So she adjusted, adapted, reset her path. This brings me to Karen Vasquez, an Afro Latina artist whose story parallels Monica's in remarkable ways. Diagnosed with scleroderma at 30, Karen watched as joint stiffness progressively limited her mobility, making her work as a graphic designer increasingly impossible. The isolation was crushing. The lack of awareness about scleroderma, particularly among healthcare providers serving minority communities, compounded her struggle. She could have retreated, could have defined herself by what she'd lost. Instead, Karen began painting as therapy, small canvases at first, works created in moments when pain allowed. But these personal healing exercises evolved into something more. Local art exhibitions focused on raising awareness about autoimmune diseases affecting minority communities. She invited medical experts to speak at these shows, created space for education alongside art. What began as personal necessity blossomed into purposeful activism. Today, Karen's exhibitions have attracted hundreds from underserved communities. Local hospitals have launched targeted outreach programs for earlier diagnosis and treatment among Black women affected by autoimmune conditions like scleroderma. Her art hangs in galleries across New York City. Her voice resonates at National Scleroderma Foundation events, from graphic designer to community health advocate, not because she wanted to change careers, but because quitting wasn't an option. This is what Monica meant when she said, your identity and purpose can evolve in ways you never imagined. Even if you lose something central to who you are, like I did with my career as a chef due to scleroderma, you can rediscover yourself and create new avenues for fulfillment and impact. But let's be honest, this kind of resilience isn't pretty. It's not the Instagram worthy version of bouncing back. It's messy. It involves grief, rage, days when getting out of bed feels like climbing Everest. And for Black women entrepreneurs and professionals, this journey often happens under intense scrutiny, with cultural expectations adding weight to already heavy shoulders. Arian Simone, co founder of the Fearless Fund, understands this intimately after experiencing burnout and depression following business setbacks, compounded by physical symptoms common among Black women leaders coping with invisible illnesses. Arian faced a critical choice. In a culture where quitting feels unacceptable, especially for trailblazing entrepreneurs of color, vulnerability can seem like weakness. But Arian chose a different path. Rather than hiding her struggles, she sought therapy and coaching. She used transparent storytelling across social media channels and investor meetings. The result? The Fearless Fund now invests millions annually supporting businesses led specifically by women of color, prioritizing wellness and holistic success, not just profit margins. Her willingness to keep trying despite setbacks became the core branding message, inspiring countless followers nationwide. This is the third powerful lesson from my conversation with Monica. Turning pain into purpose can inspire others and drive meaningful change. By sharing your journey openly and authentically, especially within our community, you help break stigma around chronic illness and mental health while uplifting others facing similar battles. There's something revolutionary about this kind of transparency. In a world that expects Black women to be perpetually strong, admitting vulnerability becomes an act of rebellion, a declaration that our humanity matters more than our productivity. This is what true transformation is about, not aesthetic choices or trendy hashtags, but the radical reclamation of our right to be human, to hurt, to heal, to transform, to rest without explanation, to set boundaries without apology. It's about dropping the superwoman cape that's been suffocating us for generations. When Monica speaks about resilience as a choice rather than just a reaction, she's inviting us into a new relationship with adversity, one where we don't just endure hardship, we alchemize it. Think about it. What if the worst thing that's happened to you becomes the doorway to your greatest contribution? What if your deepest wound becomes the source of your most powerful medicine for others? This isn't toxic positivity. I'm not suggesting we should be grateful for trauma or illness, but I am suggesting, as Monica does, that we have more agency than we realize in how we metabolize our pain. The stories of Lorraine, Karen, and Arian demonstrate this truth. Each faced circumstances that could have defined and defeated them. Each chose instead to let those circumstances refine and redirect them. Their journeys weren't about making the best of a bad situation, they were about fundamental reinvention, about having the courage to ask, if I can no longer be who I was, who might I become instead? This question terrifies most of us. We cling to identities that no longer serve us because the alternative, the unknown, feels too threatening. We'd rather suffer in familiar patterns than risk transformation. But what if transformation is exactly what we need? What if our attachment to old identities is precisely what keeps us from discovering new dimensions of purpose? So here's my challenge to you. Today, right now, write down one thing you thought you couldn't do anymore and commit to taking one small step toward trying it again this week. Maybe it's a creative pursuit you abandoned, a relationship you thought was beyond repair, a dream you shelved because life got complicated. Whatever it is, approach it not with the expectation of mastery, but with curiosity. What might be possible now that wasn't before? How might your journey through hardship have equipped you with perspectives and strengths you didn't previously possess? I want you to leave here today with this truth burning in your heart. Quitting isn't an option, but transformation is always available. The world needs your resilience, not the kind that silently suffers, but the kind that boldly reimagines. The kind that says, this isn't the end of my story. It's just the beginning of a different chapter. Because when you refuse to be defined by what you've lost, when you insist on becoming more authentically, powerfully yourself despite every obstacle, you don't just change your own life, you change the lives of everyone watching. You become living proof that the human spirit is infinitely adaptable, creative, and resilient. And in a world desperate for hope, there is no greater gift you can give.